still have to project, even though we're using mics, but this actually helps us go straight to our live stream audience. You know, we just don't trust those people watching from home, so we gotta like really make sure they're listening. We trust everyone here in the audience, you know, so you'll hopefully be able to hear us too. But thank you for coming to tonight's ELPCO meeting, the East Liberty Park Community Organization. I'm joined by my co-chair, Darryl. Hi.
Nice to have you. We have a number of visitors this evening. We'd like to recognize Mayor Biskupski from Salt Lake City, Hr.Min.Sec, Council Chair 5, who's with us, Chief Brown, our police chief, battalion chiefs from the fire department, and who am I missing? A lot.
We have a lot of city department heads and other sort of dedicated public servants here from Salt Lake City, here to help answer questions you have. We appreciate the questions that you have sent in ahead of time. Let's give them a chance for these officials to take a look at them. But if you have questions from the audience, we look forward to hearing from those as well. And I think I forgot to introduce myself, didn't I?
You did. Jason Stevenson to the right.
On the TV screen, it'll be on the right though. But I'm the one with less hair. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we always start with the fire department because we never know when they might get a call. So we are lucky to have station number 5 here in ELPCO, and so come on down, Salt Lake City Fire. If you wouldn't mind standing right here and using that mic.
Well, good evening, everybody. You hear that, or I'll just talk about.
That's for the people on the camera. Just hold it up as if they'll.
Oh, where's the camera? Where to look now? Anyway, welcome tonight. Thanks for having us. So we're at Station 5. We're in that 9th district, about 9 South, 10th East. We have an engine and a truck. There's 8 personnel there. And we also have a heavy rescue team that responds to any kind of technical rescues as well. We have, a couple things, that we share with the community councils. It's kind of our hot topics. This week coming up, February 3rd to the 9th is our Burn Awareness Week. It's one of those things where we're all familiar with, like, don't touch the stove when it's hot. But there's other things that we can be considerate of, and I've done it before, just to light up the microwave and take a steam head or something like that. But just having our, our at-risk populations, which are basically kids and elderly adults, make sure that we have a safe environment for them and dealing with that. We also had 9 fire cadets sworn in this last month, and we've got a great program that's headed by one of our firefighters, Susanna Alley, and she's spearheads our outreach to have these youth participate in some of these firefighter-related activities and what the job entails, and training that they go under. And it's one of those kind of things where you have some youth kind of find a career path for the future. Some of our firefighters that we have in combat now have actually gone through these programs in the past, and it's a great opportunity for our youth. We've got contacts on our website. If you have any youth that are interested in participating in that cadet program. I'm sure you all know that February is Heart Awareness, American Heart Month. I didn't know that, but maybe now. Again, if we're concerned about emergency response and getting to somebody who's in crisis, but we all have our own due diligence to look out for our personal well-being. If you have symptomology, especially with a cardiac issue, or you have a loved one that's exhibiting symptoms of possibly a cardiac issue, we want you to get help as soon as possible, not where it becomes critical and we have to respond, and maybe even on a full arrest. So just understanding the symptoms that may present themselves: dizziness, nauseousness, neck pain, radiating pain in your arms, tightness in the chest. Don't ignore it, and certainly don't ignore it for a long period of time. Seek treatment and get help. One of the things that we also have this month is just kind of like, why do we keep our vehicles running during an emergency scene? These are our tools. These apparatus are used, and certainly the fire application, we do that. So we do keep them running because we're pumping water or utilizing resources from the apparatus itself. We have an idle-free city. We are concerned about being green as well. In fact, most of our light fleet is now low-emission vehicles, etc. Fire trucks aren't. So when we do have the opportunity, we do turn them off, and keep our city as green and clean as possible. We also have our run totals. Again, we have several districts throughout the city. Company 5 is a relatively moderately busy house. We have our EMTs on the truck, and we also have paramedics on our engine. So we do respond to any medical emergencies, whether I broke my finger or I'm having a heart attack. And again, it's an all hazards approach: hazmat, technical rescue, road rescue, confined space, and of course firefighter related responses. So we're available. Just the number, right? 911. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding the fire?
How are the drug overdose issues in that area?
That's a great question. We have had a great rise in opiate overdoses in the past 3 or 4 years in particular. But we've seen an increase of overdoses. What they're doing is, people that are utilizing heroin and such, it's being fentanyl's been put in there, which is a super. It's very powerful drug, and it doesn't take very much to actually get these people to overdose. So something that they've been using regularly, a dosage, they take something that's hot, that has some fentanyl that's a little bit more virulent, they'll overdose. And what happens with an opiate overdose, generally you have a respiratory distress and or arrest, so they stop breathing. What the city has done and other people in our community, I'm trying to think of the physician's name up at the university. Right, Jennifer, right?
Yep.
Jennifer Plum.
Yes.
Amazing woman, kind of spearheading this, it's a crisis, right? It's a national crisis. And so through the city and people like Jennifer Plum, we've created an opportunity to have naloxone kits that basically can counteract that respiratory distress or arrest that people that overdose have. So we have all our first responders, which includes our police officers that we respond for. If they're first on scene, they have these kits that they can administer. Of course, we have our interventions as well, but we also hand out these kits to the public or families that are in crisis. They may have a loved one that may have an addiction, so now they have this, and they can intervene and counteract the overdose. And of course, public awareness is a critical thing, is knowing that this is a problem.
Is there an area around here that has a lot response from you for those?
There are some. Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the city chief gave me the numbers on District 5 and the breakdown of fire responses.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jason. And of all of the medical responses that District 5 has received, only 5% of those were related to overdose.
Thank you.
Yeah. But again, I think an overdose is maybe a common response, I would say, for us as the fire department. You have different types of substances that people may overdose. It may be pills, maybe a driver helping like a suicide type of intent. It may be an overdose that was wasn't planned. It was an accidental overdose. But again, some of these overdoses are users of something like heroin. There's certain areas in any district that might have a little more commonality with that kind of response. Some of the lower income areas, already motels and such like that. But opiates have actually kind of transferred into everybody's households. It doesn't really know any socioeconomic boundaries anymore. People are suffering from these addictions and these overdoses throughout the whole matrix. So, we'll go into almost any area within District 5, and you might come across it. So again, it's a disease. It's an addiction. We want to basically, through our police officers as well as part of our response, to get these people the help they need, which is basically, to get them off the substance abuse. And so utilize, the hospitals also have programs that kind of help get these people help after having these kind of overdoses. We try to educate people too, obviously, on scene. Yeah. Any other questions for? All right. Well, I appreciate all your time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we've got Salt Lake City Police. We have Detective David King, who is the Community Intelligence Officer for District 5. and been coming to ELPCO meetings for a couple months now. So thank you, Detective King. If you don't mind standing here and putting that mic right up close.
Hi, department. Looking over some of the numbers with the calls with our comm setting, I know we've talked about that. It shows that overall crime is down, but it seems like we kind of get a little bit of ripples here and there. I know last time I shared this when I was here, I was going to share it again. But here a couple weeks ago, they sent out kind of like a little area where it showed there was a little bit of a pattern, just kind of in the area from about 17 south to 21st and 30s to 70s. It seemed like there was a little bit of uptick in some car burglaries. Some of the stuff, and I shared it last time, but some of the stuff that was taken, kind of like identification documents. Please don't ever leave any kind of identification documents in the vehicle, especially titles to cars. That stuff gets left. What's that?
Just leave the registration.
Registration, yeah. Don't leave titles to the car. Don't leave spare keys in the car. That stuff does get looked at and taken. But there was a little bit of an uptick. But overall, it seems like it's kind of on a little bit of a downward trend right now. Sometimes people the information as far as what's going on in different neighborhoods. I don't know if you can know about some of the programs, but if you get onto the Salt Lake City's webpage, you can actually look and see what kind of calls are in the queue, what's being held on to. And there's another website, I think it's called Crime Reports, where you can get on and you can set up an account and you can kind of see what's going on in the area. Now, if you see a call, it's not going to tell you like the exact address. It'll give you like the block face or like the block area, but it's kind of something that you can look at as a tool and try to see what's going on in your neighborhood at a time. So if you guys have any questions about what's going on, if you see stuff, those are some resources that you guys might be able to access to see what's going on with that. I don't know if I've ever talked about it. Have you guys ever heard of like the Smart Force app or like the City Source app? So there's an app like you can get on your phone and you can download this the City Force City app, mobile app. And so what's that?
City Source.
City Source, thank you. And so if you see issues, streets or signs or different stuff that's things on there, you can get on there to report a problem to. If there's like a transient camp that's causing a problem or maybe a pothole or something, what you can do with your phone is you can actually get on there, take a photo of it, send that information off, and it gets disseminated throughout the city. One of the things I do recommend, if you do take a photo, stay there, because I have seen it where people will walk up, take a photo, and they keep walking on their phone, filling out the information. They get around the block and hit send, and it marks it around the corner. So sometimes the GPS doesn't exactly line up with that. So it's something to think about. But there's some great apps that are out there for you to take a look at if you guys have any questions with anything. So I just want to remind everyone, it's getting a little bit warmer. Don't leave cars running. Leave that stuff out of your cars, and just be good neighbors. Know what your neighbors' names are. Be in contact with them. Talk to them. And get on one-on-one so you can know who's in the area and who's not. And if you guys have any problems, feel free to be giving us a call. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. I was going to say, on the paper you're handing out, it has my contact information. I'll give that to you. There's 2 emails on there. One is it's david.king@slcgov.com. If you have anything, I'd ask you, please don't send it to that one. Send it to the CIU District 5. Because what happens is when you send it to that one, it not only goes to me, but it also goes to my sergeant. So he's aware of it. So if I happen to be out of the office or whatever, and I need immediate attention, then he can get on that. So if you guys have anything, feel free to email us. Send it to that CIU District 5. And then my phone number is the 801-799-3624. All right? And I'll be hanging around for a little bit. If you have any questions, we can step outside or whatever.
Thank you.
Letting us know about those email addresses too. If you look on the back of your agenda, will be posted online. You'll see a lot of great contact information for city officials, anti-graffiti, as well as the contacts for all the ELPCO board members. So.
And as the fire department's leaving, there's also a non-emergency number for fire as well as police. So if you're reticent about dialing 911, it's there.
799-3000, right? Isn't that it?
No, that's police.
That's police.
799 Fire.
799 Fire for Salt Lake City Fire. Great. That's a good one for you guys. All right. Next, I'd like to introduce Salt Lake City's mayor, Jackie Biskupski. We appreciate the mayor coming with her staff, and we sent some questions ahead of time that you had submitted. but we also would like to take some questions from the audience. But I'm pretty sure the mayor might have a couple of remarks to start out with, and we'll go right into that. So if you use this mic, you don't have to words.
Right. Well, thank you. I started to get a sore throat at about 3 o'clock today, so you'll have to bear with me because it is progressively getting worse as the day goes on. But I wanted to start out by saying thank you. The community has been very engaged with the city on many fronts. We've been working together on getting your input around affordable housing, on transit, on road conditions, on how we clear our air, all these things. And it is because of you that we have ongoing funding for affordable housing and transit. And I just wanted to say thank you, because without you partnering with us, we would still just be in a very tough spot continually. But we have tremendous programs moving forward today. We have the first ever master transit plan. We have the affordable housing plan, the first one in 20 years. And it's a 5-year plan that enables us to update it and keep it current with how the community is feeling. We have the first ever strategic law enforcement plan that we're operating from, which is what has helped us drop crime across the city. And we are, for the first time ever, we've mapped out, we've taken road condition samples using electronic, a vehicle with electronic devices in it that could actually tell us data about the road it was driving over. So we know where our completely failing roads are, we know where our worst roads are, we know where our best roads are. And we have a whole plan on road repair and replacement. And we have money for replacement because you voted for the bond. So again, thank you for supporting that bigger overarching plan to help us with our streets. And we are doing it all because of you. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to update you a little bit on some good news and some kind of hard news to swallow. I am one of 3 mayors in the country that leads the U.S. Conference of Mayors on clean energy, on climate change. And we know that climate change and clean air, the problems are very similar and what's causing those 2 things to happen in our world. And I've been working very closely with Mayor Garcetti and Mayor Brainerd, and the 3 of us have been tag teaming with C2ES and Sierra Club to help mayors across the country move to clean energy. And Salt Lake City was the 16th city in the entire country to go to 100% renewable endeavor. We brokered a deal with Rocky Mountain Power, an unprecedented deal we had. The council joined me in a resolution to move our city to 100% clean energy by 2032. The bad news is that I just came back from the U.S. Conference of Mayors leadership meeting, and our time has shortened. New science data has come out. We are sharing that with mayors across the country. We have lost 2 years since I've been mayor. So now I have to go back to the council, and we have to change our strategy and our resolution to reflect that we have to achieve that goal by 2030 now. So we'll be reaching out, and it's important that we stay very attuned to this and that we are moving this ball down the field. Climate change has serious impact on our community and our air quality, and it's an important environmental issue for all of us and our future. So working very closely with Councilmember Mendenhall, who really leads on this issue on the council side, and we will be working with Rocky Mountain Power this year to engage in an updated strategy and how we're going to get to that goal by 2030. So more to come. I will also mention that Salt Lake City is leading on many fronts. We are the first in the country to do net zero fire stations. We have 2 of them. We are the first in the country to have a net zero public safety building. We are one of the first in the country to do a net zero affordable housing building that we partnered with Give Group. They were part of the Blue Ribbon Commission. We worked with them, and they not only wanted to do affordable housing, they wanted to figure out the model for the state to follow, and they did. They have units as inexpensive as $250 a month, and it's net zero. So the ongoing expenditure of that unit is extremely low. Give Group is sharing their model, and Oakland is sharing it with other developers in the state. Super helpful to all of us in this endeavor. We are, though, one of the only communities really moving forward on affordable housing. And we have got to get other mayors and other communities to buy into this and do this work. We have about 2,500 affordable units in the pipeline, some that have been done, some that are underway, and some that will be coming shortly. But that has never happened before in the history of our city. And that's happening because you said yes to affordable housing, so thank you for doing that. We have the airport project is underway, and that is moving forward. It's a $3.6 billion project. It is the only brand new airport that will be built in the country, and it is gold LEED right now. We haven't been able to get it to the net zero goal line that we were hoping to get it to, but I'm very proud that we are accomplishing this gold LEED certification standard, and we will see if technology helps us get to that net zero place over the next coming years, but right now that's where we are today. And not one taxpayer dollar, I want you to understand that we planned for this project. We saved, we partnered with Delta, we bonded for this, but the bond is not being paid for by taxpayers. It is being paid for through airport services. So please know that, and it's a remarkable project. We have kept this project on time and on budget, and we're very proud of that. It is likely that it will expand one more time. The international opportunity for our community is probably what will create that expansion. Salt Lake City is becoming just the place to visit, and it always has been, but as our community becomes more and more visible, more and more people are coming to see it and experience it. Two other things you should know about what we're doing on the environmental front. Salt Lake City partnered with several communities throughout the state to sue the federal government over Bears Ears National Monument and Grand Staircase Escalante. Our southern community partners did not have the financial ability, and so we worked with some experts from part of the United States to help us with that, and that has been filed. We will continue to do that battle on behalf of our state and the beautiful community of southern Utah. So that partnership has been extraordinary. And real quick on, it is Free Ride Day. So today and tomorrow it's free transit rides. We're trying to get people to think about using transit services. Coming in August, we will have high frequency routes running east and west, connecting our communities to our employment center downtown, but also through Sugar House and up to the university. So we have 21st South will be a high frequency route. We will be connecting Glendale and Poplar Grove up 9th South all the way up to the university, hospital, and then on 2nd South. These will be high frequency every 5th, much later in the day, Sunday service, earlier service, making it much easier for people to have equity and opportunity for employment and medical care and to be able to get out of your car and help clear the air. So very important step forward for our community, and again, That was part of funding our future, and you all supported that, and so this is what you're getting, and hopefully it'll work well. It certainly will work well for the students who are being bused from Poplar Grove and Glendale to Highland and to East High School. Those students will be able to stay at school longer and participate in programs there and do their homework there and get help there, and not have to worry about catching that 4 o'clock bus, the last bus that would take them home. So very exciting that that'll be up and running for them for the school year next year. We also have been working with our law enforcement team in our school district. When I came in, we had a school to prison pipeline happening in our Salt Lake City School District. We have completely changed how we operate in our schools, and we are in every middle school now and every high school, not just certain schools. And that partnership has helped us really break that school to prison pipeline apart. We went from nearly 500 citations or referrals into our justice system to about 60 per year. And that's amazing. It's really exciting, especially for the kids. And it's heartwarming to me that we've been able to work with law enforcement and the school district in a way that is super meaningful for these kids. The other piece to this is Sandra Hollins had passed a bill a couple years ago, and it's really a justice reform bill, and we're the first to implement her bill in the state. And we just brokered a deal with the Salt Lake City School District and finalized that contract, and we are implementing her legislation to further help our students be successful and stay out of our criminal justice system. So it will be an interesting undertaking for us, and we will track our progress and success there as well and be able to report back to you. So good things are happening, and a lot is happening. I wanted to say thank you to the detective who worked very closely with Tim Cosgrove and many others in this room on the Georgia apartments. We had to evacuate the building due to the conditions that people were living in, and we could not get the property owner to do what she was being asked to do. The evacuation went extremely well, in part because community members showed up to help. We were able to relocate everyone. We were able to help them with pets. We were able to connect them with services. Some people were literally being kind of held in spaces that by others. And it was a real mixed bag of what was happening in the building, for sure. But at the end of the day, the people that actually truly lived there now have other housing and better circumstances, much better circumstances, and are connected to services that they needed. And people will be thriving much more. And we don't have to deal with some of the real catastrophes that are coming out of that building. So a real win, but kudos to the team that came together, and Jennifer Seeley from my office was helpful on that. And I wanted to also just say kudos to our public utilities team. There is a lot going on Capitol Hill, and over the last year they worked very hard on water. And every year we do a battle to protect our water. The city provides water to nearly 1 million people, and we are very concerned about individuals or others who want to maybe put our water at risk. And our experts in public utilities consistently are able to dialogue successfully on Capitol Hill to maintain our water and the quality of our water. And I'm very grateful to Director Briefer, who is here tonight, and her team, and our lobby team that's been up there. But the bills have gone through this session without amendments so far, and we anticipate that they will go through without changes. And that is due to the work of Laura and her team, so kudos to you and protecting those waters. So I am open for questions, and if I don't happen to know the answer myself, I have some experts in the room that can help us.
And if you want to ask a question from the audience, I can give you this mic to help get that question onto the live stream. And we did submit some questions ahead of time, which some of the folks that submitted those questions are in the audience today, which is great.
Great.
But if we run out of questions, which is doubtful, we can go to those questions as well.
Sure.
So does anyone in the audience have a question for the mayor? George?
Go ahead.
You don't need a microphone, but we'll give you one.
No, I don't need a microphone. Salt Lake City Council is going to be hearing on March 26th a Congregate care bill, ordinance, but there's been absolutely no public outreach on the east side of Salt Lake City. That bill was originally 2 or 3 years ago. The public outreach was for the west side. And I think because the in-between has caused a lot of polarization in the neighborhood, it really needs more public outreach on the east side. So the question is, will the city provide more public outreach on the east side, open houses, going to the community councils, discussing the bill, so that nobody's caught by surprise?
Yeah, is that on the agenda coming up?
Yeah, I mean, the council agenda, sorry, do you want me to use the mic, Jason?
Yeah.
Can be the one.
As you know very well, George, the council agendas are set by the chair, which is Charlie Luke, and those generally are solidified the week prior to any meeting. So influx, yes, it is tentatively scheduled at this point, and barring any change that I'm unaware of, I think the chair intends to have that discussion on that night.
Okay. Yeah, and we can probably do some outreach for sure, and we can talk to our community engagement team to see what we can do, and I'll talk with the chair about the scheduling of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you.
Other questions from the audience?
Oh, come on.
That's all right. There's a lot of questions that came in ahead of time.
Yeah,
So
I've
do you
got
wanna-
them on a list right here. Do you
Yeah,
mind if
that's
I run
great.
through that? Okay.
It's all good.
Actually, it relates to a little bit about water.
Okay.
How is Salt Lake City prepared to deal with a water contamination crisis like the one that Sandy has recently experienced? What are the testing procedures? What are the notification protocols? There seems to be a big issue going on in Sandy. Hopefully
Yeah.
Salt Lake City has looked at that and said, hey, how good are we at responding for that? And I'd just like to know, what you or your staff can tell us.
Yeah,
about
we
that.
have systems in place to avoid that, but I'll let our experts talk to this.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Laura Briefer, the Director of Salt Lake City Public Utilities, and this is Jesse Stewart, our Deputy Director. He and I are trading off shuttling our daughters places tonight. So I'm going to leave in about 10 minutes.
I just got here.
So dance, class, soccer, or whatever. So the fluoride question and water contamination event question is a very serious question. And, within hours of understanding what was occurring in Sandy City, or what was our teams actually went out and did a whole lot of work to make sure that we understood our systems. And just to step back a little bit, we do treat some of our water supplies with fluoride. Back in 2000, voters approved to treat Salt Lake County water supplies in Salt Lake County for fluoride, and that's regulated by the Salt Lake County Health Department under Regulation 33. We have fluoride dosing areas at each of our water treatment plants. So we have 3 water treatment plants where that happens, and then at some of our wells, probably half of our groundwater wells spread throughout the Salt Lake Valley. Our service area includes Salt Lake City, but also includes areas outside of Salt Lake City, such as Mill Creek, Cottonwood Heights, and Holiday. So we have a pretty extensive service area, and our system is interconnected throughout the area. When we were faced with the mandate in 2000, we actually developed our systems with fail-safe for an incident like this. And so one of the things to know about our system is our fluoride dosing pumps cannot turn on if the groundwater pumps are not turned on. So most of our groundwater wells are not turned on during the winter time. They only come on in the summertime to meet peak demands. and therefore no fluoride dosing can happen without water being in the system. In Sandy City, what happened was the well was turned off, but undiluted fluoride was put into the system. And they're still trying to figure out how that happened, and there's an investigation underway, and we're looking forward to seeing, what that investigation shows. But on our system, it would be very highly unlikely because our wells aren't turned on. I will also say, on February 19th, shortly after we heard about the event, we went out and checked each and every groundwater well, each and every treatment plant. For the groundwater wells, we made sure that each of the fluoride dosing pumps were actually unplugged. And so that is a standard operating procedure. The other questions relate to public notification. And so we've actually thought a lot about this, but we've actually had 2 water events, one in 2016 and one in 2017, where we implemented our Emergency Operations Center and Joint Information Center. Those events were when we had the harmful algal bloom on Utah Lake, and also when we had the flood event in 2017. The EOC and the Joint Information System is something that ought to be stood up very early in a situation, and in a water contamination situation, that is what we would do. The benefits for standing up an EOC and a Joint Information System are making sure we can coordinate with all of the appropriate agencies, such as the Health Department, the State Department of Environmental Quality, first responders, and also to have a place to receive the public and disseminate information to the public in a very effective manner. And that is a procedure that we already have in place and would happen in a water quality event. Some specific actions that we've taken in light of what we've already learned from the Sandy City incident. We regularly perform emergency exercises throughout our department and throughout the city. We will continue to do so, but we're going to specifically apply the lessons learned as this investigation from the Sandy City incident becomes available. We also perform emergency exercises specific to public communication, and so that's something we're going to specifically call out for an event similar to the Sandy City event. We have already conducted review of all of our equipment and operational systems, of our monitoring systems, so we're very confident that an event like that would be unlikely here, but there are always places where we could improve, and so that's what Jesse and I are working on right now with our teams. Did you have anything to add?
I think this might be the baton we're passing. She goes to the dog, and I just got her. I'll be here till the end of the meeting if anybody has questions, but I think you've summed it up really well.
Thank you.
We had a couple questions about the in-between come in over email.
Okay.
So let me just kind of summarize, to kind of put a couple of them together. And it really has to do with how the in-between is classified as a facility, what kind of facility it is, how it's zoned, how it's licensed. Some of these questions were addressed at a town hall back in December at the Utah Capitol. And you might remember ELPCO hosted a town hall last spring as well. But there's still some confusion about it, so I'm wondering if one of your staff members might be able to just explain what the in-between is, how it's licensed by the city or zoned, and any changes that might happen with it. So.
Well, we have someone here from the in-between. Do you want to take a first shot at this?
Hi, I'm Allison Leishman. I am the new director of development for the in-between. So I'm probably not going to be able to exactly give you the correct answers because I'm so new. I think I'm third week. But the in-between is licensed under the eleemosynary licensing, which is what the city will be hearing on the 26th of March. And you're correct. I got that notice not from the in-between, but from Hr.Min.Sec's newsletter. So I know a lot of you say that they are not licensed correctly. They do meet and have always met all local and state and government licensing. And if you have any questions further than that, a specific question, I'd be happy to get the information for you and get that to you.
And Nick is here, he can answer
Okay.
some of the more technical
You
parts.
do the technical stuff, that's
Yes.
not my
Well,
job.
thank you for
Okay.
for being here.
Yeah, so what was said is correct. That's how the zoning ordinance does classify that use as an eleemosynary. The changes that the council is considering, which did start several years ago, they did go through a public process. There were some open houses. There were 3 public hearings with the planning commission. Granted, it did sit for a while, and at the time, the current location of the in-between was a different use. So, we'll see what the council does with that. I can't remember what all of the technical questions were, but is there? So the use is allowed in a lot of different zones. The current in-between is in an institutional zone, which is the same zone where our hospitals, a lot of churches, assisted living, things like that are in that same zoning district. And so that zoning district was created back in 1995 for these types of uses. The eleemosynary use itself was actually created for the Ronald McDonald House, because it didn't fit into any real land use category. So that's one of the reasons why it was created. But I can't remember when, but several years ago.
Quite a while. Is that okay?
Yeah, that covers these. I'm wondering if there's any follow-ups from the audience, or?
The specifics on the congregate care ordinance say that for single-family home areas, they can have up to 16, and if they have more, it has to be under a conditional use permit.
No, I think it's up to 6. There's 3 different types. There's small. I can't remember the
Small is
term
under
small.
17.
Small is it's 6 and under.
Oh, okay.
And that's similar to like group homes and things like
Right.
that. So that's why that number is there. And so those are allowed in anywhere where there's residential uses. Those types of uses we have to allow as a city. So that's why that's there.
But
The
the
bigger ones
in-between
are-
is a separate, it's in a single-family home area,
but it's in an institutional zone.
so that little tiny, so it can do anything theoretically, according to the ordinance.
Yeah,
But
any
Under that
prop,
zoning.
right, any property can do whatever that zoning district allows them to do with their.
That's correct.
So in the institutional zone, any list of uses that are there, that property owner can use their property for any of those uses.
But normally, that would be not surrounded by like a single-family home area, and it's not, this is just one plot of property that's in a single-family home area. And I would assume that normally, because of the Medicaid issues, under 17 has been what normally has been allowed in single-family home areas. So I'm confused why this little piece of
Yeah.
property, that's what's causing the
Well,
aggravation in the community.
Yeah, if you recall, I believe it was Cottonwood Heights that was trying to prevent a kind of group home from even coming into a neighborhood, and they lost that case.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, so, the city is operating under kind of what happened in that lawsuit as well, but even prior to that, we were, the zoning, like you said, was done years ago.
Right, that was for group homes, and I agree with that. I talked to Chamness about it,
Yeah.
and he went into detail, and, yeah, so I
But
understand
yeah,
that,
so
but
you
that's
can
group
have that
homes
type
under
of
17.
Facility in a neighborhood, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
look up the number thing, because that's, I don't know that I'm quite understanding what you're saying.
Like
Maybe,
capacity.
yeah, if
number.
I can go back and look at the ordinance, I can probably,
Okay,
I can email you.
That's what you're wondering, is
clarification
there a
stuff on that.
capacity number?
But it's not
Yeah.
unusual for institutional zones to be located in the middle of neighborhoods. That's why a lot of the churches, things like that, are institutional
Assisted
zones.
living.
And
Yeah.
those are in neighborhoods, it's part of the neighborhood, so.
Yeah.
Luke, right, do you have a follow-up on that question, do you want to ask, or?
I don't know how you knew my name.
you know? I'm the co-chair.
Database there. So along with the gentleman in the front row, regarding the zoning issues, I know one thing that's under consideration is increasing the cap. I think it currently operates around 50, and or 25, they're increasing to 50 and not even higher. I also know that there's some budgetary issues. I know they just asked the housing committee for an extra $350,000 because they're in a tremendous amount of debt. Is the city taking this into consideration when thinking about increasing the cap, that these facilities, some of these facilities, this one in particular, is having tremendous budgetary issues where they may now come back to the city, the state, the county, you name it, for additional taxpayer dollars? I guess it's not clear to me that increasing the size is going to alleviate any budgetary issues if proper plans are in place. It's around $700,000. That's
There,
tremendous amount of money.
I'll address that. If you
Yeah.
think there is significant debt, they purchased a building, that building loan has been paid in full. So
Yeah, I'm just saying what I
the
read.
increase in debt is hiring the staff that is necessary to facilitate all the concerns within that facility, to take care of the clients, to ensure safety, to ensure the neighborhood is safe, and to help rehabilitate these people that are critically ill and get them well,
Right.
and get them help and get them back into our system so that they can be there.
So why wasn't this planned ahead of time in terms of putting in, I mean, when preparing, I'm assuming they prepared some sort of budget. Every year they reevaluate this, but this one was
You're looking at,
$700,000.
what the budget you're looking at is the coming year. You said it was a 2018-2019 budget, correct?
What the document, the SLC Gov website says they are in $700,000 in debt, which is why they asked the homeless committee for an additional $350,000. That was in November of 2018.
And I could not answer that question
Right.
100%.
So I guess my question is in light of the budgetary issues, is the city taking into account the idea of increasing the cap as being a good thing?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that this was going to be on a calendar, so I haven't seen what is going to go down to the council, but
Yeah.
we can take a look at that. It sounds to me like though, what might be happening is, not just terminally ill care, but people who are seriously ill and we're trying to get them well so they can move on. So, which is a different scope of service than what the in-between was before it moved there, the way I remember.
Right, but wasn't that planned? I mean, I know the city puts together a budget, I put together a job, I mean.
Yeah, right,
why-
so I'm
so
not sure.
The city's invested, the state's invested quite a bit of money
Right.
already. Are they at the point where they're just now gonna just start throwing money to keep this place afloat?
Well,
or
it's
they
not the
think-
city
Well, the
that's
state,
throwing
did,
money.
but
Yeah.
has the city invested and supported the in-between in any way?
The city has not financially supported the in-between.
Okay, the
The
state has.
funding has come from the state,
Right.
which all non-for-profit, public service programs are funded by the state. A portion of it. That's a small portion of our funding. Most of our funding comes from private donations and grants. And so this what you're seeing is actually getting the staff and all the other things necessary to take care of these increased beds that we have. Going from 19 beds to the capacity of 50 beds,
So are there funds to support?
there's funds to support,
So why are
yes.
they asking the homeless committee for an additional?
I cannot answer that question 100% for you. I'm happy to take your number and get you that
I
answer.
think Aaron might have a comment on that, and we could also bring Kim or someone else from the in-between to a new meeting and talk about that, but Aaron, I know has something.
I just wanted to speak to the council consideration part, and in the almost 6 years I've been working on the council, I can't think of a time when we've considered an amendment to a zone, or a zoning ordinance, or a zoning consideration where we would ever review the finances of those that would be affected by the change. That isn't something that the council has ever done in my experience, and I think in addition, recognizing that the need for this type of service is greater than the service that they currently provide. I have heard nothing nothing about them coming to the city. That would be a completely separate conversation from the zoning conversation. Go ahead.
But is not being taken into consideration for the zoning?
No, this zoning consideration doesn't have anything to do with the
Right.
nonprofit's budget.
Right, so the idea is you could increase the cap to 100 and they could plummet $1 million in debt, and that's okay?
That doesn't have anything to do with the zoning.
Yeah, a lot of businesses go out of business
And
with
it-
great zoning,
I
so.
think
It's unrelated. I think what we can do is bring this to a future meeting, if that's okay, because it sounds like the technical detail you're looking for is something we'll need a little bit more, some new personnel. I'd like to jump, if you don't mind, from the in-between to the equally exciting Operation Rio Grande. And by the way, there will be a spelling test, and Melissa will look well, I can't even say that word. Eleemosynary will be on it before you read. Okay, so start Googling it. We did have a couple questions about Operation Rio Grande. We have Chief Mike Brown from Salt Lake City Police Department. I'd like to take advantage of his expertise. Because one thing I think we've heard a lot in the East Liberty Park neighborhood is sort of the dispersal, perhaps, or some increased criminal element moving in. District 5 is one of the few districts in the city to see an increase in residential burglaries since Operation Rio Grande, based on the CompStat data. So I'd just like to know, from Chief Brown's perspective, what the police department's doing, how they've been following that, what their contacts are with Operation Rio Grande to sort of keep on to that issue, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Jason. This is like deja vu. Anyway, good evening and thank you for having us here tonight. Operation Rio Grande it's going into its second year. The CompStat numbers that we're talking about on the increase in burglaries, we don't see that. And so I'd love to talk with somebody that has put those numbers together, Jason. We've looked over the last year, over the last 3 years, over the last 5 years, burglaries are down across the board. Not only residential, but outbuildings, garages, and things like that. So we have ebb and flow, and sometimes they go up, and we've done different operations in District 5. About a year or so ago, we did the big knock and walkabout, where I fell down a porch and almost broke my elbow. I'm glad we got a picture of that. But we're working very hard, and we pay very close attention to the crimes throughout all our districts, and especially District 5 with some of those issues, because I know it's been an issue for this group. And so we continue to work very, very hard. Some of the things that we knew would happen with Operation Rio Grande is that once we put 80 officers down on the streets of Rio Grande and Fifth West, that there would be some dispersion. But we were very well positioned, and we had planned for that. You have an Eastside Bike Squad, headed up by Sergeant Woolridge, and he and his team are out and about and will answer any call. And they're very proactive, looking in the parks and places where people may congregate. They are aligned with our CCC, our Community Connection Center, where our social workers sit. Well, that's a bad term. They don't sit. They do a co-responder model, because they used to be, there was a big congregation of those who were experiencing homelessness down on Rio Grande. And so many would walk through the front doors. But after Operation Rio Grande, there was some dispersion. We knew that. And so we now have a co-responder model where the social workers will don their bulletproof vests, and they will go out with our officers, and they will go into the field to some of the most service-resistant people that we try to get that come back in and get some service. And so they do that on a daily basis. What we need from you is to be and to help us be our eyes and ears. So if you see camps or individuals, please give us a call. We don't have a cool number like Fire, 799-FIRE. I was thinking, something like that. 799-3000. It would really help us, because what that does is it puts a dot on the map. And when the social workers and the host officers sit down and look at where they're starting to see those calls, that will direct their efforts. So thank you very much for your help in doing that. But that would help us greatly. And just so you know, these social workers and this new model we're on the cutting edge. Salt Lake City, like the mayor has said, in so many ways is leading the country. Putting social workers in cars and going out to these different areas is really where we should be, and I would say it's really the future of policing. I mean, cops are really social workers anyway, but now we're taking our professional partners with us. So, but I'd love to talk to you about the burglary stats, and if there is an issue again, please let us know. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. You keep telling Kane about the issues, and we'll keep going. Okay?
All right. Any questions?
What do we have to do to get dispatch under you? Because dispatch is, I think, from what I've heard from all the community councils, dispatch is actually discouraging people from reporting crime. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it seems like dispatch should be under you.
Well, you know, George, I would like to talk to you about that more, because I know Lisa Burnett.
She's
very
great.
confident,
I have no
and her
problem
people
with
do great
Lisa.
work.
She's trying. It's
Yeah.
just that this is a police issue, because I know people who refuse to call if they have a burglary after the third time. I mean, this has been going on for 5 years now.
Well, that's good.
It's not Lisa, it's the system that's separate from police, and I don't understand that.
Well, it's separate, but we're in the same building. I see Lisa probably 4 or 5
I
times a week.
understand
We
that.
sit in meetings, but I just, I don't understand where the disconnect is, because they work very hard and they do
They
great
do.
work for us. and
I
they
have
are-
no problem with the personnel. My problem is the organization seems to be, it shouldn't be separate from you. You get most of the calls, you have to respond to all of the calls, and you should be in charge of that. The priority dispatch issue is another problem, which the mayor has heard complaints about many times, but your police officers, when they train us on that, it helps significantly, but the priority dispatch is not very well known to people and how to work that.
And Lisa's working very hard at some of those problems.
I know she is.
And so,
We've talked
but I mean, even if they were under us, I would want somebody like Lisa doing that job. She's doing
I
a
agree.
So we've been working with 911, Jen in particular. Do you want to address that? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And it actually, the mayor at the beginning of the meeting had thanked this community council for their energy and feedback on a lot of issues that feedback has helped us make the city better. And one of those categories is the E911 issue. When during I believe it was the second time that we came to the community council as a full team, those issues were raised. Because those issues were raised, the mayor and Councilmember Mendenhall got together and put together an audit specifically for E911 service, including the ProQA, which is sort of a protocol or a formula that's used by call takers to be able to collect and distribute information. And we put E911 together along with the fire department and the police department and a whole bunch of community input, and a consultant did the study. We actually get the study back tomorrow. We're all getting back together, reviewing the results. The mayor has asked us to put together an action plan based on those results, and we'll be working with the council office, and their staff was heavily involved in the audit as well, to be able to go forward with it. So that's where we are. That's where we are with it.
So you have to remember, fire is also almost on every call. So fire partners with police and 911, and they're working together. It'll be interesting to see how the study goes and where we are heading. But I think you'll see some changes for the better. I do want to say thank you to fire on the Georgia apartments as well. They really led the way on how we could affect what was happening there, and kudos to you and your leadership on that issue, and really helping us through a very difficult time, and then working with us on the time frame, because their time frame was different than mine, and they were flexible and allowed for us to really be the additional time that was allowed helped us really place everything. So thank you for your leadership on Georgia. All right.
Are there other questions from the audience? Ma'am, right there. Grab the mic.
Come back to the camera.
He was trying to evade it.
I know. No, I just want to commend you and other agencies that were involved in the big gang drug issue that happened the other day. Could you, I didn't hear anything on any of the news reports, could you kind of give us an idea of what areas of the Salt Lake City neighborhoods most of these busts were done, or was it just the city?
It was kind of across the board. I think some of the main players, well, let's just leave it, it was different residences, not only here in the city, but across the valley too. So, but thank you for your kind words. We did take some very serious criminals off the street that were selling a lot of drugs to people here. So I think it'll have a huge impact on what we're doing. So appreciate it.
Yeah, and those same criminals are big recruiters, right, of bringing other people into the fold. So that work goes a long way, not just to get drugs off our street, but to protect our youth from being recruited into this life. So it was a big deal. Thank you. Kudos to you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Chief, can I ask you a question? You had your event.
Is it about the in-between?
Are you gonna, no, let me
Well,
talk.
I'd just like to get to some new, well, okay, man.
Go for it.
Thanks. Jackie, Chief, are we putting any money into uni? The other day, we had a police officer
Yes.
come down, and instead of calling the crisis line, she didn't know her name, she didn't have any shoes and socks on, it was snowing, and they didn't call uni. So, you know,
So,
they called me, and I was just,
Right.
I had already lost her, but.
So UNI itself is the University of Utah Hop. They have an emergency space up there for people in crisis. But they only had so many beds.
Yeah.
And what we have done is expanded beds in the community for mental health care.
Yeah.
So that's where the new money is going, not to the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just, wherever she went, I was worried.
I get it, totally. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I took over your meeting.
So I had actually an environmental question.
Okay.
And I was just curious if phasing out plastic bags, like in grocery stores, for example, is something that's been discussed.
Yes, and in fact, there's a bill on the Hill
Awesome.
that will keep us from banning them.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes. This is what we deal with, right? So the second any community is even thinking about it, they run in a bill. Like I know, it's so upsetting, the whole thing. Medicaid and marijuana, all the stuff that just is getting changed, and the anti-sentiment of the community and the pushback we get is just so frustrating. I get it. But we are doing some outreach with local grocers to see if we can get them to just move on it themselves. And it's not easy. It's not easy. There's not a huge buy-in to that endeavor yet. It would be great if the community was putting a little pressure, like on certain chains that are very popular. I think we would have more success in moving this needle if it was community driven on a bigger chain of stores, right?
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, you should look for the bill.
I will.
Okay, all right.
Other questions from the audience? We do have a couple more agenda items to get to.
All right.
So I do appreciate your time, Mayor
Thank
Biskupski.
you, and thank you, everyone.
We're going to follow up and make sure that we get some answers emailed back to you. We have a bunch of folks email questions in, so we try to cover all the bases here. We try to do that. We've got two quick presentations coming up. The first one I'd like to, is Nan here. Nan Weber from the U.S. Census. This actually kind of relates a little bit to Salt Lake City, in that the more accurate account of the census is for Salt Lake City, the more resources, the more representation, the better things are for the census and how that can deliver to us. So Nan is gearing up for the 2020 census. happens every 10 years. It's even less frequent than leap year, right? So,
I'm just doing this for the home audience here.
okay.
Is it straight? It's been bugging me all night. Whoop, that's why it's not straight. There we go. Okay, great. So I'm here, I'm a recruiter. It sounds after we've just been speaking about recruiting. But I am a recruiter for the census, and it's for census jobs. It's a happy thing, and I'm really happy to be here. I have to say that I've been going to many community council meetings, and it's really this has nothing to do with the census. It's really exciting to see the sameness of all our community councils and how involved we all are in what affects us and the commonality between the issues that we all have. Anyway, okay, I'll get off that. So, how many of you have heard about the jobs? That a few of you, one of you. Okay, so 2 of you. So the 2020 census is gearing up, and as Jason mentioned, it's so important for us as a city, as a county, as a state to be counted, to get our complete count. And that's what this is all about, is getting people on the street right now to help us get everybody ready for next year. So what we're doing is recruiting people to staff our office that's going to be here in probably South Salt Lake, because it's kind of centrally located, and also to get the first field personnel onto the streets. So I'm going to talk about those couple positions and then just take questions, because I know we have other things to talk about. So the office staff is everything that you can possibly think of, from clerking to IT to supervisory. So we need people in all those positions once the office does open. So we want people to apply now. And as far as the field positions go, what's happening quickly, and I have some literature in the back that you can take if you or anybody you know is looking for a job. But so this is address canvassing, the green one back there, if you see that. And address canvassing basically is going out into a geographical area, making sure that all the addresses in our county are put into a map program. And when you think about it, think about how exponentially our communities are growing right now. And someplace that may have been like a single family home may have an additional home on that property now. Or several plots now have a multi-family dwelling. So in order for all of us to be counted, we have to make sure all those addresses and properties are in the system, so that when 2020 comes around next year, in April, we all get our census forms. So it's a really important job. It is kind of a solitary job, but very, very important. And then after the census is taken, that job likely will go into an enumerator situation. Has anybody worked an enumerator job before? Nobody, which is a really fun. I mean, I did the 2010 census in my community. You know, you work your own neighborhood, and it's all the people you know, and they have all different reasons for not filling out that form. They want to be visited, or they're not sure of the form. So it was a really exciting job. So that address canvassing job might develop into that next year. So that's kind of the general feel of those jobs. Just so you know, they are temporary jobs. By the end of 2020 or the fall of 2020, these jobs will be completed. So when we talk about temporary jobs, we're looking for people who, they may need 10 hours a week, or they may need 30 hours a week. It doesn't matter. You pick your hours, you do it around what your field supervisor and you can work out. This is a great job for someone who needs extra money. It's a great job for students who are trying to get their tuition paid. It's a great job for high school students who are just coming out of school and looking for that first job. They're looking for the resume builder. It's a great job for stay-at-home parents who want to get out and have some kind of job in between. Also teachers that are in between their school years. It's a great way to pick up extra cash. So questions?
background checks on this. I have a group of 60 clients. I have a group of 60 clients who, we've been looking into how to get involved, but we're concerned about background checks.
Okay, so there are background checks, and that's the thing that takes the longest in the application process. As far as being concerned about it, we just say, go ahead and apply, because every individual situation is looked at by, somebody who's handling the applications. These are the things that you have to apply, okay, before you're looked at on any background check. You have to be 18. You have to be a citizen, and you have to have an email address. So if you have those and you apply, and there's other issues, that's dealt during the application process itself. Yeah, so I would say go ahead and apply. They may say no.
We just want to do it as a group,
Yeah, I understand that. Other questions? Okay, great. I have literature in the back that has this great application. Oh, that is really bad. 2020 census.gov/jobs. So that's it. That's as easy as it is to apply for these jobs. And as I said, there's literature in the back, little cards you can take. Take them to the people that you know.
And you'd be serving our country.
That's right.
Thank you, Nan. My son can count to 20, but he skips 14, so I don't think we should take him.
So I was wandering around my little scooter passing out agendas, and I met Kristy. Come on down. But you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Darryl, you're running a marathon, aren't you?
Yes.
Oh, good. Start it for us.
Downhill. I win.
Or the bike race. We have all sorts of things going on. Hey, I was a census canvasser in like 30 years ago when I was in college, so I will vouch for you. College job. Thank you for allowing me to speak here at your meeting, and I will be very quick because I see that we've just hit the end of your meeting time. But the University of Utah Health Salt Lake City Marathon is presented by the Bank of America this year, which means we have great sponsorship. And I'm, again, Kristy Wachter. I'm the Community Engagement Director. And I've been with the marathon for this is my 5th, maybe 6th year. And the reason I got involved is because, well, it's great. And I used to run marathons before I had to replace my knee. And I just love it. But the thing of it is, we work with the Hr.Min.Sec Cancer Foundation. They're partners with us. And I have had several family members who have been benefactors of the wonderful care at the Hr.Min.Sec Cancer Foundation. So they are a beneficiary, and we've given thousands and thousands of dollars to them over the years for cancer research. So that's my biggest commitment to this marathon. But I love it. It brings our community together. And so I just want to give you a couple of dates very quickly. So I have already sent out some business notifications. I sent those out by email to certain businesses along the route on January 25th. And then we will be having another residential notification and then residential business notification at the end of March. And then, of course, the business notification with the signs on the lawns and everything on April 6th. Because the Bank of America Quality of Life Expo is held April 12th at the Salt Palace. And then the race itself is April 13th. And we have kids 5K, or 5K kids race, 10K skate, half marathon, and bike tour. So we have everything that we had last year, and it was fabulous. It was so much fun. And then we have the festival down by the library that is free to the public, and it's a great community thing. Bring your kids. We do face painting, all sorts of fun activities for kids that are free. So we strongly suggest that you bring as many people as you possibly can. We like to. This year, I really want to celebrate Utah, spotlight Utah, our beautiful mountains, our wonderful businesses, and most of all, the people of Utah and what we have to offer. The businesses, we have University of Utah Health as our title sponsor, and we have Kodiak Cakes and a bunch of other Utah businesses that we're focusing on. So this is all about Utah. This is all about a strong Utah and for a very good cause.
have you got any questions for me? And I will give Darryl and Jason the information electronically, all of this stuff that I've gone through very quickly so that you can have access to it. One other thing, we do have a hotline that I will give you the number for, and it is on recording now, but the week of the marathon, we have people answering the phones to give you the directions. SaltLakeCityMarathon.com has every single map, road closures, time schedules, everything. And we do need volunteers, which can also go to SaltLakeCityMarathon.com. When I started 6 years ago, we had 350 volunteers. We now have over 1,000. And it's amazing. I used to be the volunteer director. And it is so fun. It's an incredible experience for groups and individuals, all ages. We have everyone join us. And our volunteers are the best. Okay, now I'm really, okay. Questions?
Yeah, any questions from the audience?
Okay, thank you.
What's great about the marathon is it goes right through ELPCO. I always like to hang out there with my donuts and just sit there and watch all those really, really fit people go by. I don't run that. We've got one more agenda item, and that is the results of the 9th and 9th community survey. We had 422 residents fill that out in January and February. So we've got the results. Darryl, can you hit the lights over there? We'll get this rolling. Many of you might have received an email, actually, as this meeting started, where we released the results as a PDF and as a video. And what I'm going to do right now is just go through a little bit of the, like the highlights of them. It was a 26-question survey. I'm just going to cover some of the key questions that came up. And it talked about transit, it talked about housing, it talked about you know, how you view 9th and 9th, why you go there, what you like about it. But the whole idea is that 9th and 9th is changing. It's changing before our eyes. We're seeing buildings going up, we're seeing you know, things that, the roads changing. We want to get ahead of this at ELPCO. We want to make sure that the residents' ideas and concerns are being presented and being reflected in what happens in 9th and 9th. And so that we're not always playing catch up, but that we can actually play offense as well. So the results of this survey are going to allow us to go to developers, go to the city, go to elected officials, and be like, hey, you know what? We don't want any more tax professional services here. People actually want a bookstore. Or people don't want this kind of a restaurant, they want that kind of a restaurant. And that's what the survey results told us. So let me see if I can get this rolling, if you don't mind. And I'll give you a preview. If you noticed on the sign-up sheet, we had the little QR code. That's that kind of barcode. If you scan that with your phone, it will give you the PDF of the survey results. We're kind of smart and sophisticated here to sometimes think. So if you want to check that sign-up sheet, you can scan that with your phone. Otherwise, we'll be sending around on the ELPCO newsletter and also on our Facebook group. But let me go through some of the initial findings. Let's see, are we in focus? It's not too bad, right? Can everybody see that? There we go. So as I mentioned, it was a 26-question survey. We had 422 residents complete it, which is actually a big chunk of people. It's pretty impressive. Those are the different categories we asked about. And for 9th and 9th, we kind of figured it was everything from about 7th East all the way up to about 11th East in terms of what we were looking at. Here's those QR codes. We've got a PDF and a video. If you want to, take a shot of this later on, I can keep this up after it. But we'll also be sending this out. But here are some of the initial findings. First of all, most residents chose to go to 9th and 9th primarily for food and drinks, about 68%. And weekday and weekend evenings were when they went there the most as well. And you can actually see the results here. Food and drinks, 68%, pretty big chunk. Entertainment, which probably involves like movie theaters or meeting friends and things like that, is third. Shopping is 16% there. So obviously the restaurants and other amenities we have in 9th and 9th are very popular. And as you'll see from some of the other survey results, people have some real strong interest about what they want with that. And then here's when people go to 9th and 9th. Obviously it's nice and crowded and usually pretty busy all the time. The evenings, that's when people are heading down there. And that I think we defined as between 5 and 9 o'clock for weekdays and weekends. So still, pretty popular all throughout the day as well. So what do people want in terms of new dining options? Bakeries, brew pubs, casual dining, and ethnic food. Bakeries, I think a lot of people are missing Great Harvest at the corner of 9th and 9th, It's went away a couple months ago, and that was one of the top results. Brew pubs, I think people liked what East Liberty Tap House used to be, a little bit more of a family-friendly place. Now I believe it's a 21-plus bar, so people want something a little bit more like Squatters in 9th and 9th. Here's actually the way we did it. We asked the question 2 different ways. We said describe, sort of free response, what you want in terms of restaurants and food styles. Bakery was number 1, brew pub second, ethnic food was number 3. Diner, kind of a lunch and sandwiches place. Didn't there used to be a diner in the old Pizza Nono building, right? A Jewish deli?
It was a deli.
It was a deli, right? A deli. So people were interested in that kind of food as well, but probably something a little bit more like Blue Plate or Ruth's Diner, something like that in 9th and 9th was popular as well. You can see there's quite a few responses here. You can take a longer look if you want to go through the full results as well. We had 422 people answer the survey and about 268 responses on this particular question. When we asked what people would like to see in terms of first, second, and third choice, you can see that brew pubs came out first in terms of the number 1 first choice. People, go with what they like. Casual dining and ethnic food were pretty much tied for second place there. And you can see, I don't think people knew what Ghost was, actually. I thought it was more well-known, but that's just not really a restaurant, but just a delivery-only facility. And you can think about what 9th and 9th has and what it doesn't have, and you can see that people are wanting a little bit more of what it doesn't have, brew pubs and casual dining. Now we move on to sort of business services. Bookstores, co-op workspace, art galleries, and a postal shipping store were the top 4 responses there, although no more businesses also made the top list as well. There's definitely resistance to change in 9th and 9th. People don't want to see it become Sugar House. That was repeated over and over in this survey in different ways. And so you can see here, again, free response, bookstore. Wouldn't it be great to have something like the King's English in 9th and 9th? Like a local independent bookstore that we could call our own. A lot of people seem to like that. No more businesses was number 2. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is interesting to reflect on sort of that sentiment. Shipping and postal or printer, that kind of a home or business services company there. An art gallery or an incubator, that was an interesting connection there. Not just an art gallery, but a place that work or that offer art classes and things like that. And then co-op workspace, those have become very popular, primarily downtown. Places like Impact Hub or Church and State. Folks wanted to see something a little bit more like that in 9th and 9th. So that was a neat response. And then we did the same thing with your top 3, co-op workspace, and none actually were the top ones here. But you can see wellness spas also did well. There is a new spa in 9th and 9th. I think we had them come and talk to us a couple meetings ago as well. But you can see here tutoring and educational, got a lot pet care. We bring our dogs to a pet care place in 9th and 9th. Posh Paws, great location. They take care of our crazy mutts. But people want to see a little bit more for that. Now on to transit. We had a bunch of questions on transit. Most people get to 9th and 9th by driving or walking. It's about 50-50 actually, or 40-40 I should say. Biking only about 11%. And I think what this shows is that 9th and 9th is very walkable. You would not normally see a sort of a business or a community center that would 9th and 9th is be as walkable or accessible as it is. A lot of residential neighborhoods around it. Very small bit of dockless scooters and bikes. We were asking this question in January. That might have had some impact on using that. Only very brave people would use it, especially during those snowstorms. In public transit, as we've seen through this survey over and over, not a lot of public transit usage in the 9th and 9th area. We're kind of in a little bit of a dead zone to some degree compared to other areas, and that was repeated through some of the questions. Parking. Boy, parking's the #1 question we get at ELPCO meetings when a new development project comes in, so we asked a couple of questions about that. And increased parking requirements for development projects, very popular sentiment at our meetings, was one of the top solutions people came up with, and also diagonal parking. So you can see here how we change parking in 9th and 9th. We asked people to just rank their top 3. So diagonal parking and those increased space requirements definitely came up high. Off-street parking lots, as well as time-limited parking spaces, were also popular responses. This is something I think we're going to look at ELPCO, especially when we have a project like Mutual Beauty, the condo development going up in 9th and 9th. We originally sued them because we didn't think they had enough parking spaces as well as the overall height. There's a way that ELPCO might try to engage with the city to increase parking requirements that were required for development projects, in particular in areas like where we are, where public transit isn't quite what it is in downtown and places like 4th South. So that's just some good findings for us to consider, and some good evidence that we can use when we go and talk to these folks. So what about car alternative transit options? Protected bike lanes and light rail trolley expansion were the top responses here. Local green bike station, as well as more frequent bus routes, were also popular. And designated bike routes, that's where, you know, hey, to get up to the U, this is the route you should take. To get to downtown, this is the route you should take. Those kind of streets that are dedicated to biking and maybe don't have the same, you know, or quieter streets compared to places like 7th East or 9th South. So some good responses on transit. And then we asked people, we got a lot of responses on this, what are the worst roads in ELPCO? People were really excited about this. We got some responses I couldn't print in this survey, actually. But 11th East and 9th South were identified as the roads that people don't like to drive on. There's a lot of different words for potholes that people are using. But you can see what I did is I kind of consolidated it based on what people were telling us. But those two are out in front roads that need the most attention. This is something that we can deliver to City Council, deliver to Public Services, let people know, hey, this is what we're seeing from our residents. And of course, take a drive down any of those roads and see it for yourself. Finally, we did do a question about nightlife. We had a couple questions about that and a couple questions about housing. I'll just focus on the nightlife. This was an interesting one. 82% of our respondents wanted more bars and brew pubs serving alcoholic drinks in 9th and 9th. East Liberty Tap House, when it came in a couple of years ago, was one of the sort of the first ones in this area. And it's proved to be very popular, but of course it's changed now into a 21+ bar. But you can see that people are interested in more of that in 9th and 9th. So this is something that it's good to know, especially when new development projects come along. So again, here are the QR codes and the links. The video is basically some nice music to the slides, kind of scrolling through it, kind of relax, you know, sip your beverage of choice. And watch the survey results, or if you're just hardcore, you just download the PDF and go through it with the, you know, your pencil and your red pen. But we do ask people to email us at elpcoslc@gmail.com with any comments, responses, ideas for future surveys. We'll take that into account. We'll start, you know, maybe diving into some of this data a little bit more. So the first big survey we've done, and the response was good. 400 or so people responding. I think we're going to do more of this. So. Any questions about the survey? If you need a copy of it, come see me after the meeting, or I'll get your email address. I even have it on my phone. I can send it to you right from my phone if you're here. So, cool. Thanks very much. Any other business or questions, Suzanne?
No.
Okay.
Lights.
The lights.
Where are the cookies? Oh, we should do that.
Were we going to bring cookies?
No, that's just my general
It sounds like a
question.
motion to me.
Question in the back.
Monica's a question.
Yes. Have we had a decision yet on Lincoln Street, the closure, the proposed closure of Lincoln Street?
The proposed closure of Lincoln Street. Darryl, you've been handling that project.
No, we have not. Earlier this evening, John Larson, the Director of Transportation, was here. I think he was the only one not introduced by the mayor. The suggestion was to follow a similar plan like they did with the roundabout and put a temporary closure to try it out. He in our last meeting, he wanted to see what is now known as the Nexus Apartments, is that correct?
Mutual Beauty, Nexus on 9th, I think.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna get Mutual Beauty out of my vocabulary, but Mutual Beauty, that building is now the Nexus Apartments. I believe they're finished, aren't they, Dave?
We're getting there.
They're getting there. They wanted to finish in September, so they're really behind. We wanted to see some impact from that, to do that. There's a lot of traction, pretty much unanimous in the neighborhood to see about closing that access because of how narrow the street is. Immediately behind the Nexus Apartments and University Pet Hospital. Monica lives on 10th East, right below 9th South, and several of the neighbors there have been concerned about the amount of parking from Roland Hall students in the neighborhood along the business district. And that could easily be a discussion here at ELPCO to pursue. You look like you have another question.
I just wondered also if they do block it off or do a roundabout, will they look at the adjacent streets to see what happens to, the traffic there?
Daryl's nodding her head.
Well, Darryl was in the meeting that I'm nodding my head about, which was with John Larson, and in my opinion of the administration's response to this request, I was supported with a petition, and lots of neighbors, was that the administration said, when you do that, what it does to surrounding streets is very real and a major concern, and that the closure is on many degrees removed from other actions and investigation type activities that they would take before we ever came close to a closure. So that was the primary concern of the administration. And I think it would be really appropriate to have Mr. Larson back for a discussion that, you know, I know he didn't, there was a 9-line question that was submitted that didn't get to be answered or talked about tonight, and he was here to do that, so it would be great to have John back.
Erin will field some other questions while she's here, if you have some for her.
No, everybody wants to go home. And so I will just be here in the back. If you want to talk to me or you have a question, or you don't get my email newsletter yet, come talk to me and I'll connect you.
Thank you. One fast item before we adjourn. We've mentioned before, and Assistant Director of Public Utilities is still here. We've had street lighting projects go into our neighborhoods. Some of you may have the benefit of those. ELPCO would be very responsive to supporting that kind of thing. It reduces crime, makes Dave's job easier, we hope. So if you put that on your mental list, and if you'd like to talk about that, let us know.
Just a couple of quick items coming up in 2019. ELPCO is going to be working with other community councils to host a primary debate for the Salt Lake City Mayor Contest. So we're going to focus on kind of District 5 area, Ballpark, Liberty Wells, Sugar House. So we're starting that process, probably happens sometime in July. That election is on August 13th. We're also going to work with another community council to have a sort of a workshop on how to burglar-proof your home. You know, things you can do to make your home a little more secure, steps you can take. We're working with Liberty Wells on that project. So just two things to look forward to as we march down the months. How many folks are getting the ELPCO newsletters, the email newsletters? Folks getting those? If you aren't getting them, they're fantastic Pulitzer Prize reading material, I'll tell you. Come see me, I can get you hooked up, or just go to our Facebook page, you can sign up there. We come out with those twice a month now. One's sort of a newsy one, and the other one's more than an agenda one ahead of the meeting. So that's a new step we started as well. Please give us feedback about those as well, about what you'd like to see, business profiles, things like that.
March 12th, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, Jason and I have been invited to have lunch with the mayor. So if you have specific questions you would like us to ask in that environment, please drop us an email or give us a Gmail. Is that the right date?
I believe it is, or maybe the 20th, sometime in March. Hopefully not the Ides of March. That's a good place to stay away from government buildings. We have also a new banner and a new logo. I just wanted to focus on that. I wanted to thank Ellen Parrish, our West Emerson rep. She put together these great designs. We're probably getting a little grandiose to have things like that, but it's nice to look at. So I wanted to thank Ellen, who's not here tonight, but worked very hard on that banner. So.
And on that note, we are adjourned.
Thank you.